I wanted to win a game of Pokemon Pocket against a completely random stranger without ever attacking. And they're not allowed to concede either. If they concede, I lose the game. Pokemon Pocket is designed around the idea that your Pokemon attack your opponent's Pokemon to defeat them and give you prize points. You're not really supposed to play without attacking. That's disregarding a core feature of the game. My initial idea was to use Weezing, a Pokemon whose ability could poison my opponent's Pokemon, dealing damage over time. Additionally, with the supporter card Koga, I could take Weezing back to my hand from the active slot, healing all damage that was done to it. Then I figure I could fill my backline with Darkrai's and Greninjas, who could just fling 20 damage shurikens at my opponents, and eventually with Weezing stalling, I could KO enough Pokemon to win the game. But it didn't quite work out. In my very first game, I ran into a massive problem where my opponent immediately surrendered. By the rules of this challenge, that's a loss for me. So, hoping that this was not a sign of things to come, I entered my second match, and the deck didn't really work at all. The cards kind of fell over each other, and it was really awkward. For example, I had a situation where Drudgeon was out in the field, but I really wanted to bring in Weezing to start poisoning my opponent. Unfortunately, I didn't have any way of retreating Drudgeon because there was no Leaf or EX Speed in the deck, and all my energies were being used on Darkrai. Additionally, Weezing was taking up a slot on my bench that I wanted another Greninja to be taken. So I go back to the drawing board after I lost game 2. I decided to replace the Weezing line with Cyrus and Poke Communicator. Cyrus could allow me to manipulate my opponent's bench and bring in Pokemon that could then be damaged by Darkrai's ability. Greninja would activate Cyrus basically for free, and I thought this would be a good combo and tech to have. Meanwhile, Poke Communicator could help me get my Greninjas online more quickly, which was essential for getting my strategy up and running in time to start defeating my opponent. Let's see how this deck performs. Game 3 was kind of weird. My opponent was playing a Pachirisu deck with minimal Pokemon, and I felt like I finally had a chance to pull this off. It was a really close game, but my opponent conceded. The problem is, my opponents have no idea that I'm attempting a challenge where I'm not allowed to attack, so they assumed I would have just attacked with Darkrai and won the game, and surrendered early. Remember, if they surrender, it's a loss for me. So I needed to think of some kind of strategy to prevent my opponent from conceding. I decided that the best thing I could do was to change my trainer message. You know that message that appears in the beginning of the battle? Mine is a friendly message from your good old buddy, Mafia Boss Giovanni. But instead, I decided to change it to I never retreat. Not only would I be very unlikely to retreat any of my Pokemon during battle, but I figure that psychologically, this would convince my opponent that conceding was a bad idea. I mean, in 2 of 3 games, my opponent conceded for absolutely no reason, so I was hoping that this message would inception trick them to not press the concede button during the game. I never retreat, so you can't either. Game 4 was such a fun game, I'm actually going to show you the entire match. It was a crazy game against what would eventually become a Victreebell deck. Alright, so I start out with the God Hand, right? I get Drudgeon, I have Froakie and Greninja in my hand, I've got a Professor Oak, I'm feeling really good. But the second I see that Bellsprout, I'm thinking to myself, uh-oh, this is Victreebell, that could be a problem. I put the Rocky Helmet on Drudgeon, that's gonna be 40 counterattack damage against anything that hits me. Darkrai on the bench, Froakie on the bench, second Froakie on the bench, and I have the full Greninja line in my hand. I feel so good about this. This is the best possible start. I can't lose. The problem is that Bellsprout, it's really spooking me. Victreebell has an ability that can yoink Pokemon off the bench, like a non-stop, doesn't matter if you're damaged Cyrus. It's really scary. So I hit it with Darkrai's passive, and they start putting lots of energy on Roserade in the back line. Now I'm starting to wonder, okay, should I target Weeping Bell? Maybe not. I mean, Darkrai has to target Weeping Bell with Nightmare Aura, 20 damage because it's the active Pokemon, but with Greninja's Water Shuriken, I can actually target the Roserade in the back line. I'm thinking they probably have Leaf, they're going to use Leaf to retreat Weeping Bell, start hitting me with Roserade, so I want to damage the Roserade. that might not have been the best move because they immediately evolve into Victreebell and start putting the energy on Victreebell. That is a death threat to my Darkrai. I'm really worried. I do 20 damage with Nightmare Aura, and I attack it again. Not attack, I'm not allowed to attack. I ability it again with Water Shuriken. I'm definitely going to focus on the Victreebell right now, and I really regret ever hitting the Roserade. Since I did hit it, I used Cyrus to try to bring it in. I figure, okay, I'll stall for a turn, right? I'll stall for a turn, I'll force them to retreat. But no, they did have the Leaf Trainer card. Now Victreebell is back in, and it gets a Rocky Helmet. Roserade gets a Rocky Helmet. The hilarious thing is there are 3 Rocky Helmets on the field, and no one has attacked one yet. It's just we're both avoiding all of the Rocky Helmets. Massive, super effective Vine Whip damage to my Darkrai. I'm gonna go down in one more hit. I use Poke Communicator to swap out Darkrai and try to get that Frogger. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Yeah! Alright, now I have a second full Greninja line. This couldn't be any better, but I'm still losing. I have the perfect setup, but this Victreebell special ability is the perfect counter to my strategy. I'm able to deal tons of damage, and if I had used Greninja on it the previous turn, it would be dead. But I didn't. Because I hit the Roserade, Victreebell gets one more turn of life. It uses Fragrance Trap, lures in Darkrai a second time, and it's going to take it out with a super effective Vine Whip. This is super bad. I am very afraid at this point in time. My opponent has 2 prize points. If they take out anything, even just Drudgeon, they win the game, whereas I need to take out 3 Pokemon in order to win. I start with Water Shuriken, finally getting rid of that Victreebell. I wish I had done that a little bit faster. Now I have 1 prize point, and Roserade is on the field. I'm thinking, do I want to finish off the Roserade or target the Bellsprout? I decide to target the Bellsprout. Victreebell is a huge threat, and Bellsprout could theoretically go down next turn as long as they don't evolve it, because it only has 40 health. So I'm really hoping it doesn't evolve. Roserade might kill itself attacking Drudgeon, and then maybe, we'll get a tie, maybe I could retreat it and save the game, we'll see what happens. Poisonous Whip goes down on Drudgeon, dealing 50 damage, getting the poison. But I get a massive counterattack for 40 damage onto Roserade. The problem is Drudgeon can't tank another one of those, and I'm about to go down, which is a little scary. So I decide to retreat Drudgeon into Greninja, that way Drudgeon doesn't die, because, I don't want to lose. I get Water Shuriken, and I have to decide whether I'm taking out Roserade or going for the Weeping Bell. I decide to go for Roserade. My reasoning is that the poison will do tons of damage over time, and that's a big threat. I want to get that out of the way. If Weeping Bell evolves, I lose anyway, so I'm just kind of playing for the quantum future reality where it doesn't evolve, and I can take it down in a few turns. I'm hoping that they just attack, hit my Rocky Helmet. Unfortunately, they get a potion that's a little bit of healing. No! Victreebell comes out! This is devastating for me. With Fragrance Trap, they can take Drudgeon, just cart it right to the front, right to the active slot, and Vine Whip it into oblivion, knocking out my final Pokemon. Drudgeon gets a little bit of sweet revenge there, but ultimately I do lose the match. Even though we lost, I feel like the deck is really strong. The improvements, my new battle message, I never retreat. I feel like I'm raring to go in attempt number 5. But I'm not going to show you this entire game because even though it was a really fun match, everyone on stream really enjoyed it, it actually just fell apart because my opponent was running an Electabuzz deck and was able to snipe my backline with Electabuzz. That's kind of it. I lost. Moving on to Game 6. Starting out the next game, I never retreat. I'm raring and ready to go. I get to go second, which is great. That's early energy. I've got my Darkrai, and I'm feeling really good. And my opponent reveals a Pidgey. That's not what I expected when I saw that Leaf Energy. A Pidgey is not a terrible Pokemon. If you've seen my Gimmick Squad videos, you know that Pidgey decks can actually be terrifying, and Pidgeot EX deals more damage the more Pokemon you have on the bench, so this is actually a counter strategy to me. That being said, I'm still feeling a little bit good. I mean, it's Pidgey, right? I get an early Nightmare Aura, I put Rocky Helmet on Darkrai. I'm feeling great. What could go wrong? Little did I realize that this Pidgey would become a godlike raid boss over the course of this battle. They immediately heal it up, and I'm going to keep a running tally of all of the damage I do to this particular Pokemon over the battle, so you can see how crazy this was. I play Professor Oak, I'm trying to build up my Greninjas, just attack this thing as much as possible. It didn't even attack me, it was scared off by my Rocky Helmet. I'm feeling good right now, I'm feeling confident. I have no idea what's about to happen. I retreat my Darkrai having done another Nightmare damage, Drudgeon is in front now. I'm feeling good. Their team is a little bit scary, they've got the Sleep Tech, the Pidgeot Tech, but I've dealt a ton of damage already. Then they play Leaf. Pidgeotto retreats for another Pidgeotto, so they're preserving their energy. They're afraid of me possibly taking out that energy. And then they throw another potion down on that Pidgeotto. They've undone pretty much all of the damage I've done to it so far. I'm still not worried though, I have a really good setup. I go for Water Shuriken, and I decide to attack the one in the back line, because that's where the energy is. Darkrai has no choice but to Nightmare Aura the Pidgeotto in front of me, but the one on the bench, the raid boss, that's the one I've got my eyes on, that's the one I want to attack whenever possible. They give it 3 energies and end their turn, not really much else they can do right now, just not very eager to have the frontline Pidgeotto attack into Drudgeon. That's fine, as it buys me lots of time. I poke a Communicator Darkrai searching for Froakie, and of course I get it, being I think the only Pokemon left that I could possibly draw. I throw down Froakie and go for Nightmare Aura on the frontline Pidgeotto. Not that that matters, but I'm trying to get as much chip as possible. And here's the real target, we get one more Water Shuriken onto that backline raid boss. So far, I've done quite a bit of damage to that thing, but it's still kicking. They play Professor's Research, and chat starts breaking out into laughter when Shaman is dropped onto the bench. That thing will give 10 health to every Pokemon every single turn, and I'm getting a little nervous now. The heals are just insane. To top it off, they throw a Giant's Cape onto the Pidgeotto. I've done about 80 damage to the Pidgeotto so far. The fact that it still has 70 health is kind of ridiculous. I start trying to build up my second Greninja as quickly as possible. I really have a great setup. My full artillery is hammering them. This Water Shuriken marks 100 damage to that Pidgeotto, and it still has 50 health. That's just insane. I play Pokeball just to try to thin out my deck a little bit, and there's not much else I can do. I end my turn. I have 5 cards left in my deck. I've done tons of damage, but my opponent is ready. The raid boss Pidgeot EX with 150 health is online. It has 150 health, even though I've done 100 damage to it. This thing is a beast. It raids onto the field, wind rushing, scattering Cyclone does 140 damage to Drudgeon, wiping it out. I get 20 damage and chip to it, it barely notices, and I'm terrified right now. I send in my Frogger. You could argue that sending in Darkrai would have been the right call, since I had more than enough energy to retreat it, but I just wanted to be safe with the 1 energy retreat cost. I retreat Frogger into Drudgeon, as I was able to draw the Rocky Helmet, and then play my Greninjas. I decide that, alright, I need to take this raid boss down, or I'm going to lose the game. I just don't have enough confidence that I can take down something in the back. Maybe it'll just evolve, or Shaman will heal it. I've got to get rid of the beast in front of me. So I send 2 more Shurikens at this powerful Pidgeot EX, this crazy bird. I can't hit it with Darkrai because I did make that arguably slight misplay, where I had Frogger and I had to use the energy to retreat it. So Pidgeot EX still has 90 health, 100 health, and now there's another one in the back line, and I am feeling the pressure. Luckily, my opponent makes a slight mistake. They attack Drudgeon. With Rocky Helmet and Drudgeon counterattack, I'm able to deal 40 more damage, putting it just in range. Just in range of my epic artillery. I might be able to take this thing down. I can definitely take this thing down, and with drawing that Cyrus, I can win the game. But let me pause right here. The reason I'm pausing here is I want to tell you what was going through my head right at this moment in time. I'm looking at the board and realizing that I might have a win condition on the table. No, I'm almost sure that I do. If I take out Pidgeot EX this turn, if I could do enough damage without attacking to pull that off, next turn I could use Greninja, Darkrai, and Cyrus to wipe out Jigglypuff or Shaman and win the game. But I have to do it in a way that my opponent will not realize what I'm up to. They can't realize that I'm about to win, because if they do, they might concede, and the challenge fails. I lose if they surrender. I have to actually take them out. So I need to do this in the sneakiest possible way. Unpausing. Alright, so Nightmare Aura triggers, and I deal 20 damage to Pidgeot EX. I follow up with double Water Shurikens. If you're keeping track of how much insane damage I've done to this thing so far, it's been 1 Rocky Helmet, 2 Drudgeons, 3 Darkrai, and 7 Greninjas, 260 damage to take that thing out without attacking once. And it's immediately replaced by another one. Pidgey is scary. Flower Fragrant Garden triggers, Pidgeot EX heals, and another energy and a Rocky Helmet are gonna be attached to this thing. It is getting ready to destroy me. But it's time for my win condition. I just have to be fast enough to pull it off. I start with double Water Shurikens. They've gotta think, it doesn't matter, they're doing lots of damage, but I'll have one more turn. I'll Sabrina Greninja, I'll kill it, it's fine. I play Cyrus, and if you look, I'm hovering the energy over Darkrai, my finger's hovering, I drop it immediately the second the game lets me, triggering Nightmare Aura, giving them no time to surrender, taking my 3rd prize point, and winning a game of Pokemon Pocket, dealing a total of 380 damage without once ever issuing an attack. I'm the Sneaky Dragon, this has been a Pokemon Pocket Challenge, and I hope you had fun.